Hey, what's going on, guys? Fizz here once again. So before we get into today's video, I just want to say thanks a bunch for the support. If you have been on the fence about supporting me, or this is your first time seeing the video, maybe consider subbing or liking the video, whatever. I'm almost at 2K. I'm really excited about it. I do put a lot of time and effort into this stuff, so thank you very much for, all the support you guys have shown me. And then once again, I do read all the comments and everything. I just want to get that out of the way at the beginning of the video. I have a lot of videos to make today, so I'm going to try to speed run through this. The first video that I'm going to be releasing today, I think there's going to be about 5 in total. Some may bleed over into tomorrow, depending on, I don't want to like spam, I don't want to like spam people's, inboxes. So today's video, or first video, is my recommended starters. So big disclaimer here at the beginning of the video. I only play HCSF. That is all I play. So a lot of these on the list are all made with HCSF in mind. You can play them in softcore as well, but this is not a like softcore or softcore trade starter list. A lot of this, if not, well, all of it will work in softcore trade, but there may be more optimal stuff that softcore players are doing in their strats. I'm not privy to any of that, so it's not on my list. Just a disclaimer, right? So let's get into it here. First and foremost, Spectral, Helix, and Pale Champ. This is probably going to be one of the most popular things in HCSF this league. This was already like a very, very strong build. DD and Seismic kind of came in and dethroned it a little bit. And those were the meta builds. But now with those nerfs going through, Helix was like right under them. It was very close to them. With them being nerfed and Helix not being any more nerfed than everything else in the game, Helix is looking really strong. Helix also has the added benefit of you can have a really good league start with Spectral Helix. Obviously, you go Champ and you go in Pale. And then you can transition late game into Lightning Strike if you get an Omni from Exarch, and that will be like your end game there. So very cut and dry, very simple. So moving on from there, we have Explosive Arrow Ballista Champ. A lot of you guys know this. I'm pretty sure Ziz just released another league starter video for this, so if you guys don't know about it or it looks interesting or whatever, go follow Ziz's guide. It should be fine. The nerfs that this got, so I'm not going to talk about the nerfs that every single build got, like the universal nerfs, like the aura nerfs and stuff. I'm just going to talk about the stuff that like will affect this build specifically. So it lost 20% damage at max fusings. So basically only bossing. Anytime you're mapping, you never hit max fusings, maybe on the map boss, right? But it's not going to affect your mapping speed whatsoever. The only time you're going to feel that 20% damage loss is on the stuff like pinnacle bosses and maybe some tanky map bosses. That's the only time that's ever going to come into play. And this build already had no shortage of DPS. Now, if you're playing this in softcore, you'd probably want to go Elementalist. Maybe, I mean, you can still do Champ in softcore, but I think Elementalist is the more popular softcore. But yeah, so it lost that, and it's not that big of a deal. I actually think for SSF, like HSF specifically, that the unique changes could potentially be a bigger nerf to this build than the damage, because this build didn't really struggle on damage at all. But if they make the uniques too rare, you definitely really want random splinters on this build, and you definitely already want, Deity and Dawn on the build. So if those become like Omega rare, then that would be a pretty big hit to this build. So I guess one word of warning there. Though I will say, like, even like, in like the meta for the HSF, like the past like league or two, with how much juice there is in the game, like end game, you just run your maps transmuted or just white. You can literally just run maps white and they still rain loot. And doing that stuff most of the time, I'm still getting like 2 to 5 uniques a map on average. So even if they like straight halved the unique drop rate, we'd still be like drowning in uniques. So they would have to like nerf it very specifically or target these uniques specifically that the build uses and lower the drop rate on them for this to be like a big nerf in terms of the unique drop rate. But it is worth keeping in mind. So we have RF Inquisitor coming up next. You'd be like, oh, Fizz, Fire Trap's nerfed. It is nerfed, and this will matter a lot for like RF specifically. But if you guys remember, RF was already like a meta skill before Fire Trap was even a thing, and we're running like Firewall and Scorching Ray and shit that like didn't. Fire Trap still does way more damage than Flame Wall or Scorching Ray is what I'm getting at here. So even though it did take a damage nerf, you will feel this. I played RF to 100 last league in HSF and did a few Ubers on it, and it felt fine. Even with Fire Trap damage getting nerfed, you'll still be all right. It will still do most things completely fine. And for bossing, it'll just be a little bit slower. But bossing speed is probably not your, you know, main prerogative if you're playing RF to begin with. Your main focus is probably going to be on being super tanky and having smooth map clear. So that's that. Moving on from there, we have good old reliable Seismic Trap, Sab, and I put Explosive Trap here as well. So they are very similar builds, not in terms of how you will build them, but in terms of how you'll play them. Obviously, Seismic is going poison, and it's more dot focused. Explosive is pure on hit. So the damage nerfs to Seismic took a lot. The cooldown nerfs will matter slightly while mapping, and it'll just be worse quality of life while mapping. And for bossing, they were like 20 to 30% damage loss, and then they took another 30% on top of that. But Seismic already did the most damage in the game by far. You can still get by with those changes. If you wanted to play this, you could. You would only like start really feeling this probably at like super late game and stuff like that. Like it already does a lot of damage. If you don't want to go Seismic and you want to be safer, you can go Explosive Trap, Sab. That is still around, and that should still be pretty strong. Thanks to that guy. I don't know why that just picked up, but thanks to that guy. So you should still be fine if you want to do this, especially like we're looking now at the uniques on screen. Some of the uniques they added are actually buffs to Seismic anyway. So especially if you're playing in softcore, if you want to run like a double Ming's Heart setup, you'll have basically as much damage as you had last patch anyway. In hardcore, you could probably run 1 Ming's, but I probably wouldn't run 2 Ming's. That's probably a free trip to standard. But yeah, you could probably still justify running at least 1 Ming's on hardcore because of how crazy the damage is. Moving on from there, we have Bone Shatter Slayer. So I've gotten asked this a few times now. People are like, oh, but what about the stun changes, Fizz? Well, that's the thing. The stun changes don't, like at worst, they don't really matter. The one thing that is kind of a question mark is how common these mods will be now that they kind of like separated mod pools on rare monsters and magic monsters, right? But outside of that, this does, like at worst, nothing changes, right? So why is this a big deal with the stun? So like Steel Infused and I think, was it Gargantuan? There were like at least 2 Arch&M mods that gave the monsters full stun immunity, which doesn't really matter. You can see right there, Steel Infused on the screen, those little like thing floating around the monster. Why does this matter? Especially on like magic packs if you're one-shotting them anyway. Well, Bone Shatter has to stun to get the AoE pulse. So anytime you would run into one of those packs, you'd basically be like auto-attacking them down. And like you'd go from like hitting the whole pack and like overlapping a bunch of shockwaves on top of each other to like instantly clear the whole pack to like now you're hitting and then you're getting like 1 or 2 +1 strikes. So you're hitting like 2 to 3 monsters at a time and you just have to auto attack them down real fast. You still get the damage, but you don't get like the explosion to actually clear. So it just felt really bad anytime you would encounter these. So if they're super common now, it will feel worse. But like I said, this is worst case scenario. They then changed the stun threshold to 500%, which is way too high. You still wouldn't stun 90% of these monsters ever anyway. So that didn't really matter. They halved it to 250, which is still ridiculously high. If you guys know Karn, he's been advocating for them to change it. He did get them to half it, which is pretty good, but it still looks really high. So unless they change that, it still may end up being the same. So like I said, worst case scenario, it'll still feel the same. For everything else, it'll stop. I played Bone Shatter halfway through 99 last league. On my highest, I played it like 2 or 3 times, and I played it a few different ways each time. It was really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. It's very satisfying skill for mapping. It's okay for bossing. You will have to spend time gearing up, and in this patch, gearing's going to be obviously more difficult, and the nerf SARs and stuff is annoying also, but overall, it's a fun build. At the very least, if you want to map and you like melee, Bone Shatter's definitely worth looking at. It's a very satisfying skill to map with. Moving on from there, we have Spark Inquisitor. Now this is a spellcaster variant of the mapping build that will be really good for mapping. Spark is still really good for bossing too, but a lot of it really comes down to the arena. Like something, the Trial Master you're looking at here, something like this is like a perfect type of boss fight for Spark because it'll bounce off the walls and stuff. Something like Cirrus is not as good for Spark because typically if you're playing on like a small enclosed arena, every cast of Spark you get, depending on your duration, will end up dealing damage in 2 to 3 instances, right? However, for things that are very spread out, like a Cirrus arena, those projectiles will, go like really far off screen and then won't really come back to rebound for more damage. So it's, less good on stuff like that. Overall though, Spark is really good. It's very good for mapping. It's very safe. There's Stuff with mines going around, Mine Inquisitor and stuff, you'll be able to like prelay, and that will like absolutely destroy bosses. Especially with Tornado, the way Tornado works, your Tornado will be doing more damage with something like that. But yeah, Spark Inquisitor, very tried and true. A lot of these builds, especially in the meta stuff category, you can like literally just look at last league's PoE Ninja, HESSF ladder. All of these have very high play rates, and these are like quite solved builds, honestly. There will be like minor changes you would have to make to tweak it for the reservation nerfs, but overall, there's a million people playing this in the exact same way, and you know, there should be stuff on it everywhere. Moving down to the next category, we have new / buffed / probably good stuff. Absolution wasn't changed, but it's probably going to be completely fine. All the changes, nothing really affects it too much. And then Absolution is a very good like league starter minion skill, because you get an Act 1, it does a ton of damage, and it can carry you through acts very comfortably. Now we move on the list. I have SRS, Stone Golem, and Carrion Golem. These are buffed and probably good and probably worth building around. No one's going to have like real build guides for these before a league start, likely. If you do see something about it, probably be a little bit sus, unless it's like a very reputable content creator that's proven to make good builds. I have in parentheses question marks, because I'm not sure what will actually end up being the best ascendancy for this. If you want to be safe, you can go Necro. I've heard of people going Scion. And then there's also Guardian as well for the Onslaught, especially like on something like SRS. The Onslaught, the you know, the tankiness and the stuff that you get from there. So could be Necro, Guardian, Elementalist for the Golems, or Scion for, you know, SRS Absolution. Who knows, right? That's why I have question marks, because we don't actually know what's going to be the most optimal. At least I don't personally. Moving on from there, I have Soulrend and ED Trickster. The damage buffs to Soulrend actually look really good to me. And then if we factor in the new Trickster changes, with getting like being able to have, thanks, I don't know why that's on right now. I should fix that actually. Anyway, the new Trickster being able to leech 2% of all damage as ES gives any spell casting build a very easy avenue to get leech, which is very rare, because in general it's easier now with the implicits on gloves, but overall it's a little bit more complicated to get leech on a spellcasting build than it is on an attack build. And with all damage you do being leeched and getting over leech for your ES, it's very good, because Soulrend actually innately comes with leech, which synergizes with that, as well as with Essence Drain, right? A lot of you guys might know. If you don't know, when you have Essence Drain on a monster, you actually regenerate a portion of your life. So what you can do is spec in a Ghost Reaver on Trickster, which will double your ES regen rate, but make it so you can't leech life. But that doesn't matter, because you won't be leeching life. That's really good for a lot of spell builds, because a lot of spell builds aren't going to leech life anyway, so you can just take that for better ES leech. But the point here is that Essence Drain, you'll throw it on a boss while bossing, and you will still have that nice HP regen to supplement. So they have a lot of synergy together there. Also, I guess I'll kind of note here for people to know, base ES regen from leech is actually half of what life is. So baseline ES leech is actually pretty bad. That's why, like, if you can justify taking Ghost Reaver on a build, and I forget it, but it's the 4-point node right beside Ghost Reaver that gives you increased leech per second from ES. If you can justify spending those 5 passives total, because you want one for the mastery as well, those 5 points total, and fitting Ghost Reaver into your build to drastically increase the ES leech per second, I would recommend doing that, because it is half as good as life baseline, meaning that just taking Ghost Reaver, which will double your base ES leech per second, just taking that node makes it as good as baseline life leech baseline, right? So if you can justify fitting those in, it will make your ES leech a lot stronger, because baseline ES leech is actually pretty weak in general. So that's something to keep mind of. But it seems like a cool combo, and it does look pretty good to me. That was something I was actually debating league starting before I started PoEing Sunder stuff. Moving on to the next one, I have Spectral Helix and Nightblade Trickster. So this is basically, you know, like right side, you know, kind of like the champ version, except you get to go claws and Nightblade support right out the gate. This will be a lot of people are scared of Trickster being kind of low damage, but I think having the quality of life, especially on an attack build, of like being able to level with Blood Rage very comfortably. You can take the Frenzy node while leveling. And with Blood Rage, you will have like permanent, at least 5 Frenzy charges running everywhere while leveling, which will make you very fast and give you a ton of extra damage. It will basically be like, it'll be like having an extra link the entire time you're leveling as soon as you do first slab. Like, that's how much damage you're going to be getting from the Frenzy charges, not even including the cast speed and the attack speed, which should feel really good, right? So a lot of people were like saying, well, yeah, a lot of the nodes look good, but towards endgame, for something like Spectral Helix Nightblade, that will actually feel a lot better while leveling, being able to use those Frenzy charges and having all that damage and attack speed straight after you do first slab at around level 30, right? So this is going to be, you know, it's going to be very defensive. You will need some like late game, probably need a little bit of help with damage and stuff, but I really think Frenzy charge nodes are the way to go. The Frenzy charge node is the way to go with this build, along with, I forget the name of it, but the other one that gives you 3% more damage with every mastery you take. Overall, you're looking at like, assuming 5 Frenzy charges, which is basically 20% more damage. If you assume 10 masteries for the other one, that's 50% more damage from the Ascendancy, which isn't that bad, especially considering if you go the ES Leech node, you are allowed to use damage while like the ES Leech support, whatever it's called, which gives you a very large damage multiplier anytime you're leeching, which if you have over leech is all the time. And that support is a lot more multi than other supports you could fit in. Rip. Wow, I'm surprised they put that in the trailer. I think it's actually pretty good. So moving on, Sunder Berserker, no surprise, obligatory plug here. I do think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Sunder. I've seen a lot of people testing Warcries and thinking it's not very good. I think with the new wave speed, you can justify pretty hard just going attacks. That being said, I've seen some stuff people putting in multi-strike. Multi-strike is going to pad your POB, but in reality, you're not going to be getting that much damage from it, simply because you're not gaining damage until the final hit. So you have to hit 3 times in a row to actually gain that damage, which in reality feels really clunky. It feels bad for clear, and it mostly just pads POB DPS. So I would avoid multi-strike, and I would also I mean, if you want to play Warcries, you can. It should still be strong, but I think the way to go is probably just go attack speed scaling on Berserker. I'm biased, right? So who knows? You know, I'm dumb, so maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. I have tested it all the way up to red maps to low 90s and done multiple leveling runs with Sunder pre-buff, and it has felt very smooth, honestly, even pre-buff. So I'm very excited to see how it feels in the real thing. Very excited for Sunder in next league. I think it is honestly being slept on. Moving on from there, we have Lightning Conduit Elementalist. Now there's a lot of drama, like you guys heard in the last video, a lot of drama surrounding the skill. The numbers on it still look good in my personal opinion. This is probably still worth league starting. The only question comes down to how clunky actually playing the skill feels. I personally think it'll be fine. I think everything around it will be fine. It'll have good damage, and it'll be like a typical 1-2 casting setup that has been on a bunch of other stuff. That's what I personally think. I could be wrong, who knows. But if you want to play something new, that's the build to go. Then down here I have old / good, but not top tier. So these are builds that are very comfy and they're fine, and you know, they're going to be completely fine to play, but they're not anything crazy. And there's a lot more builds than what I have on this list, but I just wanted to make a short list, and I feel like this gives people enough options to like say like, oh yeah, I think I like that one, I'll play that one. So there are more things that you can play. Even in HC stuff, there's a lot more valuable stuff out there that you could play. This is just a short list I have. So I have Cold Dot Elementalist / Occultist. This is a staple, right? This has been around forever. Just pick one of those 2 ascendancies. Do you want more AoE and like easy access to other stuff? Or do you want pops and things like that and curses? You know, just, you know, pick your flavor and go with it. Both are fine. They're relatively close in terms of performance in my experience too. Hex Blast Ignite Elementalist. I don't actually have Occultist on this list. I did play Occultist Ignite last league, but I do, after playing it, think that you will need to go life base with Black Flame to make Occultist worth it, sadly. So this being a HCSF list, so SSF, and also with the unique changes, I don't really want to recommend a build that's going to need a Black Flame in my opinion to be good. So just Elementalist and it should be fine. I know Pack has been testing like hit base Occultist as well. If you guys have any questions about Hex Blast or stuff like that, especially in an SSF environment, I would just stop by Pack's stream or check out his YouTube channel. I don't know if he does guides and stuff for it or whatever, but at the very least, he streams a lot. You can go into his stream and ask him questions, and he'll probably have a bunch of answers for you, because I'm sure he's been answering a lot of questions around Hex Blast recently. So check out Pack. It's Paak. That's how you spell it. I think his Twitch stream is Pack HC, Pack Hardcore, PAAK HC. So check him out for Hex Blast related stuff. Honestly, he's been playing the build forever, like the past few leagues, and he's played it a million times. He's the Hex Blast master at this point. So moving on from there, we have EK Nova Inquisitor. Obligatory plug. It's fun. Play it. So this will need some changes due to the nerfs. So let me bring up my Discord here. I have been asked this a lot, so I wanted to put this in this video so I can just link this to people. You do lose an aura with the aura changes. My personal recommendation is to try to get more life regen and run RF, or you can try to fit auras in otherwise with like getting Ashes of the Stars if you're playing Trade League. There's other stuff you can do to try to fit more damage into the build since you are losing an aura, which means you're either losing Hatred or Zealotry. You can try to, like I said, my personal recommendation is probably like fitting in like Righteous Fire, because that'll give you a more damage multi for spell damage. So then you can drop Zealotry and just cap your crit elsewhere. And probably now if you're playing the build, you're going to want to go for the full cold conversion setup that I had in the PoB originally, because it's just a lot more damage. That way you can drop Fizz to Lightning support as a link and use a crit multi support instead, which will be a lot more damage overall. So there's a few tweaks the build will need, but that's my personal recommendation. And then just dropping Zealotry probably and playing it like that. Of course, if you're playing in softcore and you just don't give a fuck, you could just run Eldritch Battery on your ES and not use a Corrupted Soul, a Glorious Vanity, and just spend mana to use your Divine Blessing. You could do that if you wanted to. But yeah, I still think it'll be playable. Still think it'll be fine. If you want to play it, just keep in mind you will have to make small tweaks to account for losing Zealotry. Moving on from there, we have Shatter Berserker, another melee build adding to the list. This is, if you end up not liking Sunder, and you got baited into playing it by me, you can transition to Shatter Berserker very easily. The trees are very similar. The only difference is you're gonna change some of your just like straight damage nodes into Warcry nodes. That's the only difference. So this would be like a 10-point respec, 15 points at most if I had to guess. And yeah, this is if you want to play like more Warcry based build, Shatter Berserker is very good for that. I've played this a lot. I do have a guide for it. It's a little bit dated at this point, but I have played the build multiple times since then, and it still feels really strong. Even with Mace Tech in Exiles Melee League, I played it and did most of the bosses before I died. In that league, I was intentionally not playing with spell suppression. I was trying to do an ethical run, and it was miserable, by the way, in terms of the damage I was taking. Spell suppression is absolutely mandatory now for this game. Like, playing without spell suppression is like you're on the like a very thin line of death all the time in hardcore if you don't have spell suppression on your build. But the damage was insane. I absolutely bonked bosses, did a ton of damage. It was very fun. I like maces personally when I play Shatter now, because perma-chilling bosses feels very good, and then also getting all the AoE that maces can provide feels very good, and will more accurately simulate old slams, because axes, you can play axe Shatter. I personally don't like it because the AoE is very small and you just have to spam Call of Steel so much while clearing. I find it kind of annoying to play. I prefer maces more. Anywho, that's all my league start recommendations. 90% of the builds on this list you're going to be able to find guides for anywhere if you just look it up. And if you can't find a guide for it, just yoink someone's thing off of PoE Ninja, PoE.Ninja, and then go into the builds, look at the HSF ladder, and all of these builds have been played to death. For a lot of the new stuff, things in this list, you will be able to find some stuff. I know Ziz has a starter guide for Lightning Conduit. I will have a video coming out for Sunder Berserker. The other ones, maybe content creators have done stuff on this, maybe they haven't. I personally have not done POBs for this. But yeah, check around. Maybe use some of your own knowledge to try to make a build for any of these if you're interested in it. I will be doing a build diary for this build specifically on this list. Well, basically everything on here except the Spectral Helix build, because I don't want to play Helix. But I will be doing most of the builds here at some point for build diaries. I will have a build diary video out probably Friday, probably tomorrow. I'm going to record it tonight, but it'll probably come out tomorrow after League launch, because I have more important videos to get out before them. that will be detailing like all the build diaries that I currently have in my lineup for the league. But yeah, that's everything. That's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope there's something in this list that kind of stands out to you that maybe you want to play. If not, there's tons of other creators that have released stuff, so go check them out. Maybe they can, you know, mention something that tickles your fancy. Anywho, appreciate you guys a bunch. Friendly reminder, if you made it this far, let me know down in the comments. I will eventually not mess up my outros. Like, subscribe if you're, you know, on the fence. Ring the little notification bell. Feel free to stop by the Discord. I'm sure anyone who is in my Discord can tell you guys down in the comments below. I am very active in the Discord. I try to help everyone in the Discord as much as I possibly can. I'm very, very active in my Discord. So if you need help or advice, or just want me to look at a POB or whatever, I'm very active in there, and it's not behind a paywall or anything like that. It's all free. So feel free to stop by the Discord. There's a bunch of active people in there too that maybe you can like work out builds with, or maybe, yeah, I don't know, like league starting together if you guys are playing trade, or who knows, whatever. Discord, Twitch, obviously, streaming, content creation, stuff like that. I will be streaming like a bajillion hours every single day as soon as league starts, so look forward to that if you like the live format more. And I think that's everything. Follow me on Twitter. I always say this, but I think I've gotten like 5 Twitter followers in the past how long. I don't tweet that much, so it's not that big of a deal, but I would tweet more if I had more followers, maybe about, I don't know, streams and thoughts on the game, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'll see you guys on the next one, which will be very, very soon, like an hour or 2 from now, so look forward to that. Probably going to be the Sunder video. Peace, dudes. I'll see you in the next one. Hope everybody has a good league start.